The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Welcome to the Cashman Mind, Body, Spirit Show. I have with me a guest today, Nandy Love. What a beautiful name. Nandy, thank you for appearing on my show today.
You're welcome.
She is a minister and an educator, she developed type 2 diabetes, and I've been coaching her a little bit, and she already had quite a bit of knowledge. Now she has more knowledge. She agreed to be in my show here. And my next show after this day is a half hour just on diabetes, and she's going to do a lot of speaking. But I'm going to have her tell her story a little bit in a little bit too. But today we're focusing on one of the diseases that diabetes causes. And I'm a little bit motivated about it because we're letting people have kidney disease, and then they get dialysis, and then they get a new kidney if they manage to get one, and a few years later they die. What this is all about is prevention. The majority of the people that go see a doctor, they never check their blood work, their urine work, the condition of their kidneys, because kidney disease is in 5 different stages, and I explain this to you shortly. And in the first 3 stages of kidney disease, that's the chance we have to get rid of it or reverse it. Once it goes beyond 3rd, 4th, it's done. Kidney disease will not reverse itself, and kidney disease and heart disease are related a great deal. So when we're speaking about preventing kidney disease, we're also preventing heart disease. But at my last talk here 2 weeks ago, which already was on TV last night, I watched it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to go right down these diseases that diabetes causes, because they're preventable 90% of the time. It would make you live 20 years longer without disability. So let's go over the kidney disease a little bit. Some of these are fundamental, but again, most of us have 2 kidneys. Some of us have one with just one. Actually, you can live on one. One gets injured or they have to take it out. The other one can keep you going. You can operate actually on about 25% of your kidney. Yeah, I didn't really know that. Yeah.
Wow.
So, if you can teach you how to prevent the things that cause disease, you can have good kidneys. But you have to get these tests done.
Yes.
Get your tests done, and I'll describe this to you in a minute. So, but those kidneys are located in your back, just below the ribs, in front of the muscles. They're about 5 inches in length. They're kind of a bean shaped or so, 4 to 5 inches in size. So what do? What do kidneys do? They filter out the leftovers, the toxins left over from digestion of your food and any unusual chemicals that accumulated in your body. Your blood that goes to the kidneys, and they have these little filters in there, 1 million filters, called glomeruli, very small blood vessels, and very small screen, and the blood goes through there, and it filters out the bad stuff, and then you urinate it out. And most of the fluid is reabsorbed, and recirculated. But without kidneys, if you have neither kidney, you're not being dialyzed, you will not live but a few days. So what are causes of kidney disease? I mean, there are many causes, but one of the main things is diabetes, type 2 diabetes, something that you can get rid of pretty quickly. And many people that I know have no idea what their kidney tests are. If I were to walk up to a person and say, what's your glomerular, remember those little filters? A filtration isn't, I could walk up to 100 people, they wouldn't know it, including physicians. I asked Nandy, she didn't know, but her doctor should have told her that,
Yes.
How important it is.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know, did you?
No, I didn't know.
She called her doctor now, though, to get it. If not, we'll get it on our own, because it's life's dependent on it. Because kidney disease can cut your life short by many years. So, what kind of test would I suggest is to get blood test and urine test. But the most important test is called GFR, glomerular filtration rate. Normal is 100 to 130. That would be a teenage kid, for example, that's got no diseases, okay? And as we get older, that rate goes down because kidney wears out. Kidney cells do not regenerate. You maybe can stop kidney disease, maybe reverse it a little bit, but for them to come back to normal, there's no way to do it. That's why to save as many of those glomeruli that are filtering your blood as possible is important. Yes. Like I had mine checked, and if you want to look at my blood work, it's right here. Look at it. I've shown it to you.
Yes.
My GFR is 80, which at age 39 for the 47th time is a good figure.
Yes.
And I'm proud of it. I might show it to you. And so we need to know that figure. Everybody's got to know their GFR, because these 5 stages, as we get older, it drops a little bit. But if we as it drops to stage 3 or so, then we may start having symptoms. We don't have any symptoms in the first 2 stages, so we don't know what's going down unless we run tests. You are what your tests are. And one of the other tests, GFR is number 1, is serum creatine. Creatinine. Okay, creatine is a muscle enzyme, and the muscles break down from every day use, and that heads for the blood system, and some of that is screened out through the kidney, and some is reabsorbed, and some is excreted. So if your kidneys are not working well, your serum creatine will rise up.
Okay.
It's not filtering it out. It's not filtering it out. So a normal figure would be 0.7 to 1.35. So you want to get that test. A BUN, that reflects the nitrates in muscle tissue. So if you're in kidney failure, your BUN will rise. So that's a good blood test. And the serum albumin, that represents a protein in your body, because you need some protein in there. And if that's rising or is very low, then the kidneys are not reabsorbing it.
Okay.
So, and now in the urine, the same thing. We check the creatine in the urine, the BUN, and you need to look at the urine. And it's hard to pick up disease by looking at your urine. But unless you had a kidney stone and there's blood, I had one once, pain in the flank. Wow, that's pain for you.
Wow.
And so that could indicate a kidney stone. Cancer could be blood. But if you're gathering protein in the urine, the kidney is not reabsorbing the protein, and you can look down there, it'll be much more bubbly. So to pick up disease by looking at the urine is not that useful, although it has some use. Does it have blood in it? Is it black? That would indicate that maybe old blood, you know. But if you see red blood in it, that's sort of an emergency. Infections can do it. I have a patient recently, a friend actually, told me about that, and it turned out he had bladder cancer. And so what can cause kidney disease? Smoking can. And he was a smoker. That may have caused it, you know what I mean? So cancer, infections, but diabetes probably is 80% of kidney disease. Wow. So to have proper tests done to know what your blood sugar is. I tell you, you're a good one. Is on the path to diabetes, the serum insulin. That is what pushes sugar in the cells. And if that's elevated, you're on the path to diabetes. So personally, I think we should be screening even children, because a lot of type 2 diabetes where we can't push the sugar into the cell can occur even as teenagers. So to test the children too, check the urine creatines, the blood creatines. The earliest spillage of protein into the urine from the kidneys not reabsorbing the protein is microalbumin. So this really small protein. Not everybody where you see small protein has kidney disease, but a lot of them do. I mean, what's the point is what I'm saying here is that most kidney disease is silent. It's silent. And in the silent stages, you can reverse it, stop it. But once you start having symptoms, which occur like in stage 3, stage 4 many times would be dialysis, stage 5 kidney transplant, and those have limited value. They have some value, but you don't want to get to that stage. What I'm here about today is early diagnosis. Prevention is the cure. If we catch you in advanced kidney disease, we can help you a little bit. Maybe you can stop it, reverse it a little bit, but you will always have kidney disease. It is not a curable disease.
Okay.
See, that's really important to know. The public doesn't know that. I bet, Nandy, you didn't know that, did you?
No, I was not aware.
Yeah, now, a very intelligent individual, in that physicians, the public health have not educated her. What's my concern? I think these dialysis centers, which are 4 or 5 in this city, should be spreading the word. They should be on TV telling us about it. But I'm doing it. So, and the kidneys receive their blood supply. The heart pumps the blood through the aorta, and the 2 vessels go into the kidneys, and you can obstruct the blood flow to the kidney through arteriosclerosis. They have found Americans in the Korean Vietnam War, Americans that died, did autopsies, and found they had fatty streaks in their blood vessels, and the soldiers from the other countries, our enemy that died, didn't have that.
Okay.
So what we're saying is that we are seeing the changes towards heart disease, towards kidney disease. Those two are really heavily related, occur at a very young age, and we need to do something about it. And the kidneys, besides reabsorbing the proteins which we need, also regulate the amount of water in our body, the amount of chemicals, sodium, potassium, phosphate, and acid-base balance, very tightly regulated. And the kidneys themselves also secrete hormones, renin, angiotensin, for example, which are emergency drugs to raise your blood pressure. Your kidneys make that hormones. So your kidneys are important.
Yes.
Kidneys aren't working. That's not working. There's another hormone made by the adrenal gland, which sits right above the kidney, very small gland, aldosterone, that also raises our blood pressure. So those three raise the blood pressure, and it's called the RAA system. RAA system. The renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system is very important. If your blood pressure drops, they get secreted, save your life.
Yes.
And it also makes erythropoietin, another hormone, which makes your red blood cells. You can't live without those. So the kidneys are very, very important.
Yes.
So what is kidney failure? It's loss of filtration, but not all of it. In other words, we lose a great deal about our ability to filtrate out the toxins in our acid-base balance, which is very important. For example, I played a tennis tournament. I played tennis most of my life, and I was playing a tournament at Sweeney. It was a hot day, and it was 3 hours I played, and I started sweating and vomiting, and I had them take me home as an emergency. They took the emergency room, and they gave me an intravenous, and I recovered like that. What's the problem? Well, I'm sure there was a problem in the sodium and the chemical balance. Mm-hmm. They corrected my fluid loss, and I lost a lot of fluid. Replaced the fluids, and I went home. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I thought I was going to die. So the kidneys do regulate the sodium and the potassium and phosphorus and try to keep it in balance. Years ago, they used to think that's all the kidney did. All they treated was the chemistry. Come to find out the kidneys do a lot more than that. They regulate your protein intake, for example. Even the vitamin D a little bit. Mm-hmm. Sunshine raises your vitamin D level, but kidneys help you do it. And the stages we talked about, remember, stage 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm 80, so probably stage 1. That's part of aging. But and as people go down these stages, the kidneys get worse. They have no symptoms, so nobody's doing anything. Mm-hmm. But that's the time we could fix it. Mm-hmm. We finally get to stage 3 and 4, and now we have symptoms, and we run some tests, but then it's very hard to reverse it, to get it back to stage 2. Very difficult. But there are things you can do by eating right, and we will discuss that. But if you get all the way down to 10, you probably you'll need to be dialyzed and maybe a new kidney. And once you get down to 5, 4, 3, you may be dead. But the kidney is pretty resilient, even if it's a very low filtration rate. I treat some advanced patients. I have some that just don't want a kidney. I have one lady, Pam, she doesn't mind me mentioning her name, and she was number 5, and her GFR was 5. That was 2.5 years ago. I got rid of her diabetes in 6 weeks by eating the right food. It's really about eating the right food.
Yes.
And she looks great.
Wonderful.
I think you saw her too. Yeah.
Yes.
She stopped, spoke to you.
Yes.
And that's not been well studied. We don't know. You can save something like that, but she's eating 2 meals a day. Is what I recommend when it's kind of fasting, because in that fasting time, as Rudy's 16-8 keto, in that fasting time, you have autophagia. Your body is repairing itself, and then you eat the meal, and she's done that, and eating the right food,
yes,
which is low protein, vegetarian keto type way of eating, eating good fats, maybe 60%, 20% protein, and vegetables and some fruit, she looks great, feels great, looks great. If you eat right, you actually look good. You're looking good, so I think.
Thank you.
So things must be going our way.
Yes.
When the GFR is about 33 or so, remember you said 33,
Yes.
symptoms seem to appear. Sometimes people before that, and then they, I want some tests done. Well, geez, you're really advanced now.
Mm-hmm.
It'd have been a lot easier if it was 50
Mm-hmm.
or 60.
Mm-hmm.
Once you say around 15, they'll start talking about dialysis and maybe even kidney transplant.
Wow.
But transplant is trouble. There are only so many kids available, kidneys available, and when they do it to you, they got to give you some steroids, which makes you gain some weight. Your diabetes may come back. There are problems. And in dialysis, at least 3 hours, 3 days a week, sometimes at home, sometimes you have to go to a place and you don't feel right, you don't feel good. 60% of the people go into dialysis have advanced symptoms. They look malnourished. So, and we already discussed the test to get, but you need the ones I was speaking about, the main ones, the trifecta, is the GFR rate. That's really a big one. And the other things you ought to check, the gold standard, okay? Serum calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, BUN, which your BUN is keeps on right. What's more important really than any one individual test, tell you something important, it's a trend. You know, if I see you and this is what you should do, and in spite of me telling you what you should do, maybe you're not doing it, but maybe you are doing it. It's the trend. Are the figures returning to normal or not? The trend is more important than the individual figure.
Okay.
Yeah, in these books, which I meant. And remember, the creatinine level in the blood, 0.74 to 1.35 is normal. And if it's above that, we know we have a problem. And the enzyme, the creatine enzyme, is for muscle breakdown, produces about 70% of your creatine. 25% is from the diet, but the test is still reliable. So vitamin D levels are related to kidney failure too. If your kidney is failing, the vitamin D goes down, and that regulates, for example, the calcium in your bone, and you're going to more likely to break something. It affects your vision. So it's a lot there. And what do they use to calculate the GFR? It's not any one chemical. It's a combination of creatinine, which we mentioned already, cystatin C, your age, your race, your gender. Black people have kidney disease more commonly. I don't know if it was related to slavery and their genetic structure. It's hard to say, but it is even more important for them to get a blood test. Everyone should get those tests and talk about GFR, but especially black people. If you see a black person that's overweight and they don't know their GFR, they don't know their insulin level or blood sugar level, they're going to die young. In the last 20 years, they'll be disabled.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's true. It's not a racial thing. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And we can live in denial, which I'm not for. That's the reason I'm on TV. Yeah,
Yes.
and it is indeed appreciated. People know I'm doing this. But albumin is the most common protein in the blood, so to check for that in the blood and the urine, I think is, and it comes mainly of chemicals made in the liver. And we need to know the acid-base balance too a little bit in the urine. So carbon dioxide is produced when fat or sugar are used for energy. That's our only energy source, okay? So it changes the chemistry of the blood. Bicarbonate is alkaline, That's in fruits and vegetables. We want to be in an alkaline state. And fruits and vegetables are more alkaline than meats and cheeses. They're acidic. So you need to know the acid-base balance in your urine too.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes.
But the other tests I mentioned, just for general screening, are important. And then we can go out and run other tests. 26 million people in this country have kidney disease.
That's a lot.
Many don't know it. This is a judgment-free zone. What I'm saying is, next time you see a doctor, or ask him, like you did. You called your doctor. I want the results of my GFR test.
Yes.
But they have not answered your phone yet, have they?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. They have not answered her. But believe me, within a week or two, we'll know what it is.
Yes.
If you don't want anybody to have to order it, you can go to a place called AnyTest. It's by Walgreens, DuPont Road. They run those tests for people. They charge, no insurance. I've dealt with them, and they get the price down very cheap. You can get a serum insulin, I think, for $7. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you were to go to a hospital lab, maybe $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to bargain a little bit. And so if you had a kidney stone, it generally have pain in the flank. I've had them, so I can tell you a lot about it. I ate a Brazilian nut once. I mean, they're this side, and then I flew to Chicago for a medical meeting. In the hotel room, I had a kidney stone.
Oh, wow.
In agony. So read about that a little bit. I don't have time to review all that here, but beets do it too. Some people don't tolerate nuts. And matter of fact, last night I had a Greek salad at a nice restaurant, but it only had a few little pieces of beets. But I liked them so much, I ate them. Today, nothing. Probably because I ate a small amount.
Yes.
And but that Brazilian nut kind of taught us, and I'm not eating nuts anymore. But generally they're good for you, actually. But some people don't tolerate them.
Yeah.
So hormones regulate many kidney functions. For example, an antidiuretic hormone secreted by the glands, and they pull water back in. If you don't have antidiuretic hormone, you'd be urinating all day long. And so urine flow can vary greatly, and it can be a problem. So if there's a tremendous change in rate of your producing urine, you pay attention to, hey, what's going on around here? And because problems are coming, because they're getting, rid of chemicals. And 26 million people have kidney disease. We spoke about that already. Most of them don't know it. In 2010, we had 650,000 people on dialysis.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Where the kidney can cleanse the blood. So now it's being done by a machine. Okay? And they'll hook an artery to a vein and to a machine, or you can do it through the peritoneal cavity. That's what's around your gut. And they can run a catheter into there. That's another way of doing it. Many different ways of doing it. But what I'm trying to say is I don't want you to have to do that.
Yes.
At that stage, you're at stage 4 or 5 now. I'm concerned about the length of your life. Okay? So if in 2010 we had 650,000 on dialysis, I would say now we have 1 million people on dialysis.
Yes, that's a good estimate.
Yeah. And also, in passing, let me mention this, is viruses are sugar feeders. Most people don't know that. So people who died from the coronavirus were the ones who had diabetes and the complications. That's 90% of the deaths from the viruses. Fauci didn't mention that. I don't know why he didn't mention that. I think that's pretty important. And I mean all viruses. I mean the flu. It wasn't just COVID-19. The flu going around, we have thousands of deaths every year. if people didn't have so much sugar in their blood, they wouldn't die from the viruses that are killing a good number of people. It's not just about 19.
Yes.
It's about the viruses in the past and the viruses that are going to come in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Very
so important.
interesting point. Prevention is the cure.
Yes.
Get rid of your diabetes. You're much less likely to succumb to a virus. And the best test to run to see how you're doing is a GFR and a serum creatinine. We already mentioned that. That's blood, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Most people, as I mentioned before, are unaware of their stage. Big, I can't repeat it enough, big mistake. We all need to know that. We need to know our figure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to change the paradigm. Our hospital system, they get you surrounded. They're making money from you. They're not telling you this because you would get better. You'd avoid diseases, and they have a little less business. They still would make money. I don't understand it, but I'm just, if you look at this book I wrote here, just look at this book here. I'm taking on the industry. Let them complain. Prevention is the cure. So what I'm saying is, what is influencing the hospital systems? You see the sad face on the cover. It's a smiley face with tears coming down. You got to admit, that's not too bad.
Not too bad.
And the sugar industry, House and Senate lobbyists, poor nutrition teaching in the schools, processed foods, they remove the coverings and you're eating the sugar. Cow's milk, yes, cow's milk. You were telling me about a grandchild that has type 1 diabetes. And I asked her, you think, did she drink a lot of milk? She says, yes. Well, let me tell you, the protein in milk is very reactive and can cause an immune reaction, and your immunity attaches it and destroys the pancreas and the pancreas, and they have type 1 diabetes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gluten does the same thing. So read a book by Joe Key on whitewash. Once you read that book, I don't want you to accept what I say. Read that book. If you drink milk again, you don't know how to read. At least I like your thought about, it's a brutal book. Mm-hmm. I read that. Goodbye, cow's milk. Well, for one thing, a cow's milk, they're born. The first thing you do when the baby's born, they inject it with a hormone that causes it to grow 10 times faster than the normal, so it can produce more milk. Then they put it in a cage, and they put herbicides and pesticides on it, and then it makes more milk, and you give it to your kid. Mm. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Because you don't know, that's why. And even the government, has this program going where they give free milk to the poor people. I mean, how sad. I even went to that place in town that does that. He said every one of their people in that group that comes to them, the neighborhood health clinic, is diabetic.
Wow.
What the manager told me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to go in there and teach about the milk thing. Of course, they get so much money from the government. Then I understood that might shut off the funds. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hospital systems, lack of preventative treatment. They treat the heart disease, and most of them have kidney disease too. But to prevent the problem in the first place, I don't see much of that. So, but thanks for listening to my words. I know I'm a little brutal about it, but it's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
Someone's got to speak the truth.
Yes.
And if you have a different opinion, come to me. I notice I have these shows, so no one's ever come and looked me up about it. I don't see the president of one of the hospitals sitting here. I'd sure love to have a discussion with them.
Oh, that would be nice.
But that would be nice. I would tell them, though, there's 2,000 books in my basement. You better be read up. And that's true. I even had the nation of, we can't believe this. I am flying high a little bit because I had one of the ambassadors from the nation of India contact me because they want to use these shows to play them to the people in their country because they cannot afford to treat all these diabetic patients with all their complications, kidney disease, heart disease, dementia, increased rates of cancer. they can't, amputations, dislocations, they can't treat them all.
Yeah.
They'd rather prevent it. So they'd look me up and see if I would help them develop websites or an app on a phone. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. It's kind of interesting. When you're trying to diagnose kidney failure, 70% did not know they were diabetic. Wow. So meanwhile, the disease is progressing. 70% knew they were diabetic, okay? But only 10% knew they had renal disease.
Okay.
The diabetic patients need to know the condition of their kidneys. That's statistics. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is.
And you freely admit, Nandy, that you didn't know?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, it isn't. And she's a very intelligent person. So her doctor's office is not answering the phone call. Maybe they're guilty conscience. 31% had increased protein in their urine.
Wow.
Of course, they didn't know that. And when the providers dictated the summary of the patients in the hospital with, say, cardiac disease, diabetic diseases, they mentioned the kidney only in 8% of their summaries, which means they didn't run the tests, or they'd have made a big, deal of it, and kind of interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah.
So, are you at risk for kidney failure? Let's speak about you, Nandy. Are you at risk for kidney failure? Probably not, because you have no symptoms. So for you to be at stage 4, I doubt it. About stages 1 to 3A, they took 3 into A and B. Maybe you're 3A and you have no symptoms. Who knows?
Who knows?
Let's hope it's the next show I got here. I'm going to mention yours, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because you're here because you're trying to help people like me. There is some people are more genetically inclined to develop kidney disease, but I would say this, that I know on one side of my family they're all diabetic, every one of them, and they keep on saying it's in our genes. And I say, it's on your genes, all right. They're too big. And the point is this genetic expression. You can have a little tendency because you had been in slavery, or you came from a family which ate badly for years and years and years. And that could have caused some genetic change, but majority of the time, it's your body's reaction to what you are consuming. And you can stop that, reverse that pretty quickly. That's the beauty. And there is a disease called polycystic disease where people develop big cysts in their kidney, and that can be pretty serious a problem. Some get so big you can feel them back there.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a disease in itself, but the majority of the people can be treated, but some, the cysts are so big it's an impossible situation. The first test that show any problems in kidney is the albumin in the urine, microalbuminuria, to have a check to see if there's a little bit of albumin in there. And if you do that, you get to run the other test to see, hey, if I had this for a long time, is this advanced? And if you're having a serious problem, you ought to repeat the test every month. If it seems to be getting better, like I have one patient I know now, a big company executive, and Lee Hull, who I'm going to speak about a little bit here, he would say 90 days is a good trial period. In other words, you're going to change something, I suggest, let's recheck all the tests in 90 days. And then the trend is what counts. Is it getting better on the average? one individual test may not tell the whole story.
Right.
But other things that are helpful. Of course, we mentioned weight loss is a big one. If you're overweight, odds of you being diabetic probably 98%.
That's
I mean, there are some people that are not, but 98%. 20% of the normal weight people are diabetic. And remember, if you're diabetes, odds are you get kidney disease, odds are you get some heart disease. That's why it's so important to do something about it. Are my kidneys healing? You might say. Suppose the test is that normal. Mm-hmm. And I tell you a certain program, other healing. Generally, kidneys don't heal much in the later stages. I mean, if it's, say, 40 GFR, to have it be 30 in a month, extremely difficult. But the earlier you catch it, the quicker it recovers. Oh. So it's still, you can stop the trend.
Yes.
You can reverse the trend a bit. A bit. And there are examples by getting the toxins out of your blood, and one way is to eat right. Mm-hmm. That is the biggest way. And so kidney disease is a disease multiplier. These other chronic diseases you can have with it, vascular disease, heart disease, tooth disease, teeth are falling out. Teeth are highly related to the type of food you're eating. The bacteria in your teeth are sugar eaters. Mm. Okay. The eyes are affected too. And they did a study of half a billion people, 500,000 with heart disease patients. So that's interesting. And they found the GFR association was extremely high, and depending on the level that you are, determines the amount of congestive heart failure. So kidney disease and heart disease are intertwined. And so I mentioned to you already, trajectory matters.
Yes.
Is it going up? Is it going down? And that is even more important than the exact number. So put your time and energy into diet above all else, type of food. And let me review that again a little bit here. To eat, say, 50, 70% good fats, 20% protein, vegetable and fruit. You say, well, I want to eat 80% vegetable and fruit. And because in kidney, the protein from vegetables is a lot healthier. But if you eat good fats, guacamole, for example, olives, is that because you're not eating sugary foods, your blood sugar is going down, and your insulin, which is not needed to push the sugar into the cells, is going down. And then leptin, the signal comes from the pituitary, leptin is secreted, it opens the fat cells up, fat comes out, goes to the liver, turns to ketones. Now you're in ketone metabolism. Those are small energy molecules that high energy, your brain loves them better than sugar, your muscles love them. So if you're in ketone metabolism, you're getting thinner, you're losing weight, and quickly. And if you're doing fasting, the 2 meals a day, you're going to get healthy quickly. 2 meals a day in ketone metabolism, you can get over this disease 90% of the time very quickly, and I highly recommend that. Remember, we spoke a little bit about the acid load in food, okay? But if you reduce the acid load in food, meat and cow products, milk, are highly acidic foods. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You look better, you'll feel better, your health will be better. You may put a deadly disease into remission. Wow.
That would be great.
Yeah. So, meat products, milk products, especially if you have a kidney problem to begin with, are not good foods for you. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Remember, those are acidic. The more acidic foods you eat, the faster the kidney disease progresses. Beef, chicken, fish, eggs, dairy, grains. So, but if you're not in these advanced stages, you can eat them fine. But if you're in these advanced stages, then you have to get a lot more serious about the type of food that you're eating.
Yes.
So
True.
acidic foods are associated with heart disease. Alkaline diets, okay, more vegetables and fruits, protect the renal effect. There's no data that says that low acidic diets are bad for you, okay? Remember I said acidosis, even mild, accelerates kidney disease. So a pH should be around 7.35. If it's lower than that, it's acidic. Higher than that, it's alkaline. The body only tolerates in a very narrow range. Acidosis affects bone and muscle loss. If you're in an acidic renal situation, to have osteoporosis and break something, no surprise. No surprise. Acidosis increases the odds of death as early as stage 3. So it's really important. That's the direct correlation between albumin, protein in the blood and the urine, and the bicarb levels, okay? And so a diet of low renal acid diet, the PRAL diet, can be of value, that you get away and become more alkaline. Just another way of looking at it. And I mentioned to you before, how do I want you to eat? We can hold this up for you if you need a copy. Get a hold of me, or I'll make copies for you. What I'm saying, about 60% good fats, good, smart fats. Look at my other shows. I'll describe that in more detail. Good, smart proteins, okay? And about 50% of vegetable and fruit. So to eat a total vegetarian diet, the Kidney Association, the National Kidney Association, recommends the Mediterranean diet. But the darn trouble is, and even Lee Hull in the book, which I'll hold in a minute for you, the darn trouble is, we don't really know what a Mediterranean diet is. It's many different definitions, but it is more vegetables. So, and I'll review that for you a little bit too. But to follow my pyramid, and I'm not selling anything, have a look at it. And again, what does Lee Hull say? Give it 90 days. If you haven't lost a lot of weight and your figures are not improving, it because we're all a little bit different, okay? And so if we have diarrhea, laxatives, our potassium, and all these figures will drop. If you have end-stage kidney disease, if you're taking some medication that's causing that can be fatal, because it can affect your electrolytes in your blood, but your kidneys aren't working right, so you're going to get in trouble quick. You can have urinary tract obstruction and everything backs up, and you quickly have a problem, and that can be kidney stones, it can be cancer, it can be a hemorrhage. And so eating too much protein probably is okay in a normal person. If you have kidney disease, that's not okay, okay? But in a normal person, that's okay. And as I mentioned before, as your kidney disease is advancing, you have no symptoms. So maybe stage 3.5, stage 4. And remember, and you get a test and say stage 4, your odds of reversing it is slim. Okay. You can eat better, you can eat a low protein diet, and maybe pick up a year or two before dialysis. Okay. But the final figures on this, because it hasn't been studied that well. Remember, I have Pam, who you met, stage 5 kidney disease. Stage 5 kidney disease. The GFR is 5. I got rid of her diabetes, and her GFR is 17.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Such a blessing for that.
You know, this maybe Pam and I will be dancing when she's 100. You know, I'm looking at the heavens for that.
All right.
And you being ministered, there's no harm in a prayer, is there?
That's right. Prayer is
faith.
important. Faith is important.
Makes a lot of difference.
Yes.
And we have to respect. I look at this as a battlefield. Okay, just a battlefield. And like I wrote a book called Rudy's War on Diabetes. I declared war because no one's doing anything about it. But my bullets are information. It's information. And you mentioned to me, which I kind of really liked, that it says in the Bible to respect your body.
Oh, yeah.
The battlefield.
Your
it
body.
says so right
Yes.
in the Bible. So I think this is extremely important.
Yes,
you know?
it is.
Is that it is written from the heavens to respect your body, to respect the battlefield. And I love those words because I've given some talks at churches and they've been positive, but the information I'm giving out is not spreading throughout the churches. They should be doing that, shouldn't they?
Yes, it should be done.
Because it's the body of Christ, and we need to respect it and get healthy.
Yes.
Church people, to me, what do you think, Reverend? Church people, to me, should be the healthiest people in the world.
They should be, yes, I agree.
Let's you and I work on that.
Yes, we can work on that together.
We'll work on that.
Yes.
And they are working on it a little bit because I've given some presentations there. And I mentioned earlier nephrotic syndrome. It's distinct from kidney failure, okay? It's a reaction to medications. It can come up like that. You also can see it in children. Milk protein casing can do it. All of a sudden they swell up. They're swollen all over the body. And that's nephrotic syndrome. There are medications that do it, aspirin, Tylenol. That's the reason they give a very small dose of aspirin for heart patients. Myself, being 39 for the 47th time, I take no pills. You would think I should be on at least a small aspirin, but I don't know. I mean, is a small aspirin dangerous? You know what I mean?
Yes.
In people who have advanced kidney disease, incidentally too, they have a lot of bruising on the hands. You see them. You've seen them there because they're not clotting right. And they have a lot of pain, and they could be taking NSAID medications, Advil, Motrin, all these different things that can advance kidney disease. So you got to be very careful. Medications can really kill you.
Wow.
And the side effects. And one indication of nephrotic syndrome, where you're swollen up all over with foamy urine, that would be increased protein foam in the urine. Okay. And if you're anemic, it's a sign of kidney disease too. Self-testing, I'd like to mention that for a minute. That's a big one. You can go to the drugstore and buy these strips, these paper strips, no prescription needed, and you can urinate on it. And if it changes color, it would indicate high protein or high blood sugar.
That's correct.
So at least that's a start to go further. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anybody can do that. You can't get into the doctor or something. Go in there, buy a strip, urinate on it. And if it has color to it, you could be in kidney failure, high protein, or you could be diabetic, high blood sugar, or maybe both. That's a big one. So symptoms, if you're in kidney failure, stage 3, 4, 5, symptoms can be fatigue, muscle cramps, those cramps, it's what I had when I played that tennis thing I spoke about.
Yes.
Or was I ever cramping? You know,
Wow.
one of the electrolytes was off.
Okay.
And as soon as they gave me the IV, it's correctly, it was fine. But people with kidney disease can have cramps all the time. At night, they're laying in bed and they're cramping. Get a kidney test.
Yes.
The appetite goes down, nausea, vomiting, easy bruising, itching all the time. There's, from proteins, we make purines, and they become elevated because we're not getting rid of them through kidney failure, and people have attacks of gout. And people with, I've never had it, but I have patients tell me they have terrible pain.
Wow.
The joints will swell up. Usually it's the ankles, or it can be the knees, and it can be a sign of kidney disease. High protein diet will do it.
Mm-hmm.
So gout, which I could almost have a TV show on, commonly seen in people with kidney trouble. So if it's above 7 or 8, watch out. So you got to be very careful, you know, what you eat. And as we mentioned, if the kidney is stage 3 or less, 3 to 1, diet can many times make a huge difference. It will make a difference at stage 4 and 5, as I have exemplified with some of the patients, you know, that I've seen. And we spoke about dialysis already, where they do a fistula through an artery in a vein and then purify your blood and then put it back into the vein, back into your body, or the peritoneal cavity. There is, the kidney people finally woke up a little bit. So in 1972, you can't believe it, the government passed a law. And I mean, it's great for people, but people who are on dialysis since 1972 don't have to pay for it.
Wow.
I mean, that's great, but the problem with that is, though, then people are less likely to be motivated too. You see my point?
Yes.
They may just lay back and say, oh, it's paid for, I need to worry about it. Well, what they don't know and realize, they'll need a kidney transplant. Maybe they can't get a kidney, even if they get one. That's a little trouble. And 20% of the people die in dialysis, okay? Once they're transplanted, the death rate is a little bit less, but there's too few kidneys available in the world, so that's the reason the people from India call me. They just can't run a system like that. They can't afford to pay for their dialysis. The people can't afford to pay for it. So at stage 4 and 5, they're dead.
Oh, wow.
Their only chance is to follow maybe what I'm teaching, which I agreed to do. A wonderful opportunity.
Yes.
At least the government stepped up and did the right thing. In this country, our government is stepping up and maybe paying for some of it. And what they found out is the diabetes rate and kidney failure is increasing every year, and the cost. It used to be 12 billion, now it's 25 billion. What's it going to be next?
Yeah.
But I don't worry about the cost. I want to get rid of the disease.
Yes.
So, in summary, my main purpose really today here was to tell you to get tested, to avoid getting the disease in the first place. The treatment systems, the different ones, I mentioned how I would look at it. Other people look at it, Mediterranean diet. I have my own system. Try either one, 90 days. Don't work for you? Switch to the other or something in between. I tell you, other good books to read here is Stop Kidney Disease by Lee Hall. Let me hold it up. I realize it's a little big, but this page, well-researched. He needed dialysis. He's now, I think, 25 years later, he still hasn't dialyzed because he really, thousands of references in there. And then, if you want to read that much, Stopping Kidney Disease Basics, a lot quicker to read. And I went through preparation for this lecture, I went through the Lee Hall, H-L-L, wonderful books. Another one, a 12-step program, Kidney Disease, by Mackenzie Walser. You said you had read that too. Yeah.
Yes, I did.
And lastly, Kidney Disease by Snyder. because information, gather information. Watch my other shows, YouTube's got so many on them. Reverend, I really appreciate you coming along. I know you're trying to help yourself, but you're trying to help other people.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
And I'll see you on the Diabetes Show, where I'm going to have you speak a little bit more, because I need other soldiers joining my army.
Yes.
Rudy's declared war on diabetes and all the diseases associated with it.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My pleasure to have you on the show.
I'm glad to be
And
here.
we did this show because we love the people, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
you
right.
love the people. I love the people.
Right. Thank you for caring.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We love you. Watch our other shows. I'll spread the word.
Yes.